Rise in Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Thanks for getting up so bright and early on a Monday morning. I know how you feel. Ba-da-da-da, Monday. I feel it too. Sometimes it's a little rough to get up, but guess what? You've got the Wake Up America show to get you rocking and rolling, ready for the day, rising in freedom. Grateful to have you here. Make sure that you click that like button as you sit down and enter the stream, and we get the show kicked off. If it's your first time listening to the show today, and you enjoy the content that you're watching, make sure you click that subscribe button before you go, whenever you gotta go. If you gotta go, you gotta go. Just click that subscribe button before you do on whichever channel you're watching us on this morning so that you can get updates whenever we go live, which of course is every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. 2 hours, Monday through Friday. That's a lot of content every week. Yeah, get a lot of good freedom news every day. This has just been a really weird day to try and put together a show for you in terms of what stories they are. Not everything always flows naturally together. Patriot Front Unmasked in just a few minutes. We're going to talk about a rally over the weekend which saw Proud Boys, not Pride Boys. Pride Boys probably would have been the gay kids. The Pride kids, the Proud Boys, and the Proud Feds. All right. I'll get started. I'll get warmed up here in just a minute once the coffee kicks in. The Proud Boys clashed with the Patriot Front boys over the weekend, which led to a scuffle and saw some of the members of the Patriot Front, is that what we'll call them? We'll call them Fed Front over here, being unmasked and having their identities passed around on the internet. We've got some of that information. We are going to talk about that. And the reason why I've decided that I think it's okay to share this information is because I am actually a believer in the conspiracy theory that many of these people in the Patriot Front institution are indeed federal agents. While I am a big disbeliever in most mainstream conspiracy theories, if you call them there's such a thing as a mainstream conspiracy theory, and debunker of most conspiracy theories, every once in a while I latch on to one. And typically when my spider senses start tingling, I tend to be right. One of the conspiracy theories actually that I latched on to very early was the whole, well, I call it conspiracy theory. It turned out to be just a conspiracy, was the whole lab leak theory from COVID-19, the origin of that one. I remember getting kicked around for that. But we are going to talk this morning about that. I've got a video as well as some of the information on two of the members of Patriot Front who were unmasked and some of the information relating to that. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. This morning, we're also going to talk to Brad Palumbo. I'm looking forward to speaking to one of the co-founders of politics.com after the NYC Pride Parade revelers were chanting at a drag queen march about how they were coming for your children. We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. And yeah, that's the kind of thing I think could definitely spark some anti-gay hate. So let's speak to Brad Palumbo about that this morning at 7:30 a.m. You'll have to excuse me. I think I have some of my contact this morning. So if you see me doing this a lot. Brad Palumbo will be joining us this morning from basepolitics.com at 7:30 a.m. to talk about New York City Pride revelers shouting, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children." I'm sorry that we have to be talking about this, it seems, every single day on the show. But if it weren't just so outrageous and so that it demands a daily rebuttal, then I probably wouldn't be covering these things. Unfortunately, these are the kinds of things that require us to discuss. And I know that for those of you who tune in the mornings, and sometimes your kids are tuning in, I know that you think to yourselves, Austin, I wish that some of the topics or things that you cover, you could just tone down a little bit. I wish I could. I would like to, honestly. And I know that if I was in conservative talk radio like I was back in the day, I would be required to by federal communications standards. But at the end of the day, do we really believe in federal communications standards? No, I'm going to hold to a voluntary level of decency that I think is necessary to maintain an audience of people who are getting ready for work in the morning, while still being able to report to you what I believe are the important news. Remember, there is always Good Morning America, and you can go watch some, Olympic skier doing some stupid thing that doesn't really matter all at the end of the day, but mainstream Americans just eat that stuff up. So there's NPC news, and then there's the Wake Up America show, right? All right. So Brad Palumbo at 7:30 to talk about that. Gays against groomers. At 8 o'clock today, John Miltimore is going to join us to talk about why the coming death of cable TV is one of the greatest stories of our time. It is a big meta story, and we'll have a big meta analysis of that this morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. John Miltimore's latest piece over at fee.org is a terrific tour de force about why today's cable news networks are victims of creative destruction. This media evolution is a great deal, he writes, for consumers and for content creators alike, right? Just like us, the Wake Up America show. We're grateful to have you here today. Again, if you're just tuning into the show, make sure you click that like button. Just like our friend Robbie Theriman said, hit that like button so hard that it collapses into a black hole and goes down to the very bottom of the ocean to hang out with the Titanic and the Titan submarine. Shag Nasty 420. Good morning, brother man. Good to see you, bro. I think this might be the first time I've seen you comment. Grateful to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. If it's your first time here and you're watching the show today, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found us. I'd be curious. European Tin Beater joining us here. Nice to have you. Kermode Bear, Nelson 65, all of our friends over on Rumble. Wow, nice big crew this morning on Rumble. Glad to have you here. We are going to get to the story here of the Patriot Front being unmasked in about, excuse me, a little bit less than 5 minutes. But briefly before we do, I do want to sort of put a pin or put a, I guess tie a bow around the story of the Titan submarine. And I read a great piece over the weekend from Reason Magazine titled "Don't Shame the Ocean Gate Crew for Taking Huge Risks," with a nice subtitle that said, "But don't expect taxpayers to rescue adventurers when they fail either." No, I couldn't agree with you more. Interestingly, 2023 has been a dangerous year for adventures from the Titan submarine to Mount Everest. Dozens of people this year have died in thrill-seeking adventures. The five explorers aboard the ill-fated Titan submarine all died in an implosion undersea. The Coast Guard announced the death of the five explorers last week. It was interesting to note that the U.S. Navy and James Cameron, many in the submarine community, pretty much already knew that that submarine had imploded by Monday morning, while the rest of us spent the rest of the week hoping against hope that they might have survived. But a near record number of climbers have died or been presumed dead this year during their high altitude trek to the highest spot in the world. Each year, thousands of people climb Mount Everest, and 12 trekkers have died this year while trying to dominate Everest, and five more people have been announced as missing. A handful of those people who were killed or missing were Sherpas. Those are the guides that are tasked with taking trekkers up to the top of the mountain. And rescuing fallen trekkers, if you're dead or alive, is a very risky endeavor. There is a very good chance that those people who were missing are dead and gone and will never be seen again. And there's just not a lot of rescue ability, just like the same with the Titanic crew of that submarine. Even if they had been found to be alive at the bottom of the ocean near the Titanic, the technology didn't really exist to be able to bring them to the surface, more than likely, unless they had been stuck on something and they could have been set free. It's just that when people take these kinds of extreme risks and go on these adventures, people have to understand that there's a good chance that they may not come back, or a rescue just may not even be possible. Um, there was a story about a really complex rescue mission that happened in 2017. A former president of the Nepal Mountaineering Association says that rescuers had a 50-50 chance of survival in this one. So there are sometimes rescues that can be done on Mount Everest, but it's highly unlikely. And people do this kind of stuff all the time. And here's the thing, they should be allowed to do it. People should be allowed to take these kinds of risks with their own life, provided they're not putting other people in danger that don't consent to being put in danger unnecessarily, right? So the Sherpas are an example of the type of people who consent to the danger of taking these tourists up to the top of Mount Everest. But if you're doing something that's putting other people's lives in danger, in order to have a rescue, I mean, there are a lot of people who will do what it takes to try and save someone else's life. but they shouldn't be obligated to necessarily. I watched a video a couple of weeks ago of a someone who took a risk of going out into this area where the surf was breaking up into these rocks and it was creating this sort of cauldron of waves where it was the water is very aerated, very bubbly, which means that most of it is air. So if you go down into the waves, you're going to sink right straight to the bottom because most of those aerated, most of the water there is really just aerated bubbles. And this guy went out into this rock in the middle of this cauldron of water and was just standing there while the ocean came in and surrounded him and came up over his head and boom, dropped, pushed him off of the rock. And he just went down underneath the waves. And there was a lifeguard who was offering commentary of this and saying that while a lot of lifeguards would say, oh, they would affect this kind of a rescue, or a lot of lifeguards might say, oh, well, maybe they would. A lot of rescuers maybe would have tried to save him if they had been nearby, but they weren't. He had friends who were nearby. Obviously, somebody recorded it, which is, another phenomenon that we can discuss at a later time. But the lifeguard who was watching this video said that he would not have tried to effect a rescue because it would have just been a suicide mission. There would have been 2 or 3 or 4 bodies if lifeguards had attempted to rescue. And a lot of times when those lifeguards go in, then all of a sudden there has to be a rescue to try and rescue more than one. And you start stacking up the resources in a situation where people really are just committing suicide in a large way. So should the U.S. government step in and bail these people out? I'll leave that to you in your opinion. My opinion is that it depends obviously on the situation. But if we're talking about rescuing billionaires who go to the bottom of the ocean, I know that the 19-year-old did sign up for it and he was an adult, but he was heavily pressured. And the 19-year-old who died in the Titanic submarine, Titan submarine, I know that he signed up for it and he is an adult, and we shouldn't be infantilizing adults, but he was heavily pressured by his father to go into the submarine on Father's Day. It was just an absolute terrible tragedy. But at the end of the day, people should be allowed to take these kinds of risks, in my view. People should be allowed to do these kinds of things, these extreme adventures, if they know full well the risks that are involved. What do you think about that? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Send me a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this, the news today. If you think that there's something that we missed, you can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Shag Nasty says you shouldn't expect someone to dive into a volcano to save you from drowning. Absolutely true. Although I don't know if you drown in a volcano. If you jump into a volcano, we're probably gonna liquefy in minutes, right, Shag Nasty? John Knox asked an interesting question. He says, would you rather go into space on a NASA space shuttle or on one of Elon Musk's rockets? Yeah, honestly, that's a great question. How would you answer that? Let's hear from you on that text line. And again, if you text us today, let us know if you think that there's a story that we are missing or we haven't covered. All right, it's time for us to move on to the big news today, which is that several members of Patriot Front were unmasked over the weekend at a rally where members of the Proud Boys organization, you all remember this? This was the organization that had been founded by Gavin McInnes, but because of lawsuits and criminal proceedings, Gavin McInnes had to back away from this institution. By the way, I do watch a lot of Gavin McInnes's videos these days and stuff. I don't know why, but I'm on this big Gavin McInnes kick these days, and I've been thinking about trying to get him on the Wake Up America show. Do you think should I reach out to Gavin McInnes and get him on the show? What do you say? Yay? Nay? Your thoughts on Gavin McInnes? Honestly, I'm kind of a fan of Gavin McInnes, but I think I always just kind of liked him because he liked me, and I think Gavin McInnes likes me from what he's seen of me in my campaigns and things like that. But like probably some of my stuff that's like a little bit more libertarian, he might probably be like, I don't know about Austin Peterson, but we'll see. So what do you guys think? Should I get Gavin McInnes on the program? We'll take a look at this video right here. This is the Proud Boys who are approaching members of the Patriot Front. Many people are saying are federal agents. I'd like to get your thoughts on this one here. Let's watch the video right now. Let's transition to social weirdness. Let's see some social weirdness, people. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. FYI. strong language. So if you got kids around, turn it around. There's going to be a lot of F's, and F's. Okay, here we go.
Back up! Back up! Get out of here! Get the fuck out!
So if you're listening, like Camellia is in the car with her friend Michael on the way to wherever they're going, on their way to Iowa, you won't be able to see what's happening. I'll try and narrate a little bit here, but you've got the Patriot Front, which are the people who a lot of people on the right, including myself, think are feds. The Proud Boys, if you're wondering what these kind of like shirts are, these yellow shirts and black shirts, these are kind of like uniforms the Proud Boys wear. That I think that's their colors. Is they wear they always have American flags, and they have these yellow hats, yellow and black hats, and yellow and black shirts. So that's why you see these guys look like they're wearing very similar outfits. Those are the Proud Boys. And then on the other side, the guys with the mask that wear the balaclavas and the sunglasses and the hats, those are the Patriot Front, right? So Proud Boys is like the Gavin McInnes kind of New York like boys club. Patriot Front are the guys who show up doing the Hitler salute to like pride rallies and things like that. And the ones who you never see their faces, but you'll see them in Washington, D.C., and they'll wear khaki pants. They all like look and dress and act the same, which is why a lot of people think they're feds, because there are all these kind of young guys that are fit that look like cops. Anyways, so let's play out this video.
Go! You too! Go! Get the fuck out! Be gone, bitch! Be gone!
See, they're pushing them, shoving them.
Fucking racist motherfucker! Casey, you're a faggot!
So I thought that's interesting there from the Proud Boys, because a lot of times in the leftist media, Daily Beast, whenever they refer to Proud Boys, they're always calling Proud Boys racists, and they're always the left is always attacking the Proud Boys as racist. But here we see members of the Proud Boys calling the Patriot Front racist mother truckers, which honestly I think is kind of fascinating. What do you think about this? Jerry Sign says, if they're feds, are they allowed to disguise themselves like this? Yeah, absolutely. Feds can lie to you, but you can't lie to the feds, which I find interesting. And that's the kind of conversation you might have with Judge Andrew Napolitano. Let's see what we're saying over. Did I close my Rumble thing? God, I'm an idiot. All right, hold on. There we go. Maybe pull my Rumble back up. I want to make sure I'm following my Rumble people in case they got questions and comments that they'd like to drop in. There we go. My virgin ears, European tin beater. All right, here we go. I am literally proud boy, says the Onion Dip. You should try and get Gavin on. He probably won't. Too early, says the Onion Dip. Yeah, that sucks. Maybe I'll try and like pre-record an interview with him. I know he does Anthony Cumilla's show a lot. But if it's too early for him, I'll try and like book him around a time when he's actually free. But yeah, I'm just on a huge Gavin McInnes kick these days. I watch two big podcasts when I'm getting ready in the morning. One is Gavin McInnes clips, and then which I think he's criminally undersubscribed and underwatched these days. Like a lot of his commentary, I really think is more relevant than ever, and very entertaining and funny. And then this other podcast I really enjoy called The Boys Cast. We'll talk about that later. Let's continue on here with the Patriot Front, the violence.
Go! Go! Get the fuck out of here, dude. We're not here. We're not here. Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out! Go! Go, bitches! Go! Go, bitches! Go, bitches! He didn't talk. I'm gonna fucking time.
Dude, look at this guy right here. Whenever you see a guy right there with sunglasses and that beard, and he's got an American flag, and he says he's gonna F you up, run, dude. These guys like this, they're gonna kick your ass. Go. Whenever somebody has this haircut, by the way, we pause for just a moment because we got like a kind of a mullet rocking on right here. He's got like the curly hair in the back, kind of mullet. A guy like that has a 100% chance of kicking your ass. There we go. So the violence has begun. Yeah, boom. Now they're assaulting the Patriot Front members. Imagine, first of all, imagine getting your ass beat by the American flag. Oh, Jesus. Gavin faking that SWAT raid, pretty loathsome. JP, I don't know anything about that, right? Like, I don't, I have certain people and creators that I follow and that I listen to, but I don't follow absolutely everything every creator does. That I even the ones that I follow, I don't know absolutely everything about them. They have controversies here and there. I mean, I like to watch Gavin McInnes clips in the morning, so I don't know what SWAT raid you're referring to. Anyways, let's continue here. So here's the violence breaking out.
Fuck yeah, dog.
Right, so they beat this kid up, and now they're starting to rip off their headgear.
Get the fuck
Boom,
out!
there's one guy who's been unmasked. There's two guys now that've been unmasked, and we're going to see their faces. And once they see your faces, it's over. We're going to find their identities. Now here comes the big, giant, 250-pound female cop whose job is to protect the feds. I mean Patriot Front. Oh, the boom! Then he grabbed him. Now what's hilarious is they rip his thing off. Now look, he's trying to cover his face. It's too late, dude. He's trying to cover his face. He's running off.
You guys are taking the streets back, T-Mask! You fucking racist piece of...
Now, what's interesting about this one, and here's the kind of fuel for the conspiracy fire, and I know I posted a meme about this yesterday on Instagram, but here's Adam Kinzinger, and you all know him as that kind of lefty Republican, senior CNN political, any Republican who's a senior CNN political contributor, is just a turncoat. But if you don't know who Adam Kinzinger is, he's basically he's basically a neocon. He's in the kind of the same vein as Dan Crenshaw to a certain extent, but not as much as as bad as Dan Crenshaw is not as bad as Adam Kinzinger, right? Where he hates MAGA and hates Republicans so much, his own party, and hates the Donald Trump. He's got Trump derangement syndrome to the max, even worse than you, Chris Morrill. Just kidding. Just kidding. But I found Congressman Adam Kinzinger's comment to be fascinating. Former congressman, thank you. He says, these people, all blue checks, people like me, are celebrating a seemingly MAGA assault on federal officers. Now, I don't know what this really is, but take a gander at the comments of the, quote, patriots who, quote, love America, he says. These people are celebrating a seemingly MAGA assault on federal officers. So here's the problem with that, is it seems as if seemingly Adam Kinzinger is seemingly confirming that members of the Patriot Front might be feds. Let's go over here to this tweet from Amiri King, where he pulls up the information on the gentleman who was unmasked as a member of the Patriot Front. This allegedly Ben Brody, who is allegedly a member of a Jewish fraternity. What? Now, of course, the information about all of this stuff has been scrubbed from the internet, but people, the internet being forever, people had already gone in, screenshotted his profiles, and find out as much as they could about this young man. And I'm going to analyze it here in just a moment. But he says, so he's studying criminology. Again, this is alleged, with the hopes of graduating and working for the U.S. government. His words, not mine, right? So the fraternity, the Jewish fraternity that he's a member of, is now private. They've scrubbed any mention of Ben Brody. His Twitter is now suspended, which is even weirder. And this is what Amira King says. He says, if someone accused me of being somewhere I wasn't, I would immediately take to social media to provide evidence that I was not with ease. There are cameras everywhere. These Patriot Front people are running around throwing up Nazi salutes and calling people N-words and stuff. Any sane person would immediately hop on Twitter, disassociate from Patriot Front, and clear that up real quick. Unless here he is, Ben Brody character, who is allegedly the person who is unmasked in this altercation between Patriot Front and members of the Proud Boys group. And of course, the other gentleman, I'm not going to have time to get to the other gentleman because we're going to speak to Brad Palumbo in just a minute about chanters at a New York City Pride parade who were talking about they're coming for your children. We're going to get to that in a little bit less than 5 minutes. We'll get to Brad Palumbo. Unfortunately, I will have to table this discussion and we'll get back to it, with my analysis on this one, because why would a Jewish guy be a member of a Patriot Front studying criminology? I have a lot to say about it. I just don't have time right now. I'm sorry. I'll be right back with more. We're going to talk to Brad Palumbo on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Good morning, Rise in Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Grateful to have you here. It's nice to see such a big audience today. You know what that means. Click that like button if you're joining us now. And if you like the content and you've never watched us before, subscribe to the channel so that you can get more updates whenever we go live. Every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central, the Wake Up America show is broadcasting to you the best in freedom-oriented news, economic freedom, and personal liberty. If that's what you believe in, then you're in the right place. Sit down, grab yourself a cup of coffee, maybe some eggs and bacon, or whatever it is that you eat for the mornings. I like to start with a little bit of oatmeal, power food, so I can power through it. How do you start your day? Drop a comment below. Let us know your morning ritual. Tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce. Sit down and have a seat and listen to my next guest, one of my favorite guests. He is the co-founder of basedpolitics.com. His name's Brad Palumbo. He's a fellow freedom fighter. Welcome, Brad Palumbo, to the show. Good morning, Brad. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing well, thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate you getting up so early for us, Brad, especially to talk about a story like this, which I'm sure is as deeply troubling to you as it is to me. Despite the fact that we have very, similar tolerant views on how people ought to be able to live their lives as they see fit. And, if people want to demonstrate on the streets in favor of their, preferred sexuality, it neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg, it doesn't bother me. But the attitudes of pride parades have changed a lot, and they've changed very dramatically in a very short amount of time. In New York City, their Pride Parade on Sunday had a very controversial chant where some of the LGBTQ activists there had been shouting, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children." Brad, your take.
Oh, that is so demented and so counterproductive. As a gay person, that bothers me so much. Look, I think the best possible faith interpretation is that they're trolling, they're joking, maybe to try to like rib at conservatives who are calling them groomers or whatever. But I think that's like if you're being as charitable to them as possible. I think really, oh, what a creepy thing to say, what an inappropriate thing to say. And it completely plays into this long held stereotype that gay people are out to get your kids or more likely to abuse kids, which is not statistically true. And we've spent as a community decades fighting back against. Now they're playing into it, either because they earnestly believe it or because they're just that committed to trolling conservatives. Either way, disgusting, demented, counterproductive. And what I will say is I keep seeing these clips of these pride parades, and there's crazy stuff going on. Weird chants, nudity, inappropriate displays in front of children, kink, BDSM, blah, blah, blah. I just want people to remember that pride parades, especially the clips that go viral, are not representative of your average LGBT American. Most of us don't go to those events. I haven't been to one in years and years and years. I wouldn't be caught dead at one at this point because they're weird, because they're politicized, they're partisan, they're extreme. They're not what they used to be. And so you're looking at the fringe when you look at these clips. You're not looking at an average representative of the community. And I just want people to understand that because they're giving us all a bad name.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brad. Years ago, when I used to work for the Libertarian National Committee, my very first job in politics, we would go and we would man tables, and I recommended that we go to the Pride rally parades to try and see if we can't get some members from the Pride rallies to join the Libertarian Party, which I was a member of at the time. And you didn't see this kind of stuff when walking down the streets of Washington D.C. Like there were kids around, and I didn't worry about it because I knew there wasn't any kind of shenanigans or anything like this going on. But that has changed, Brad. Why has it changed? What has changed recently that is causing this now, this desire by some members, even if it's a minority, as you say, to become the loudest members and to be pushing very loudly for the indoctrination of children?
I honestly don't know. I can't relate to it at all. It's just never crossed my mind to any such a thing. I guess maybe it's them trying to push back at the right and basically give them the bird and say, "Oh, you're so afraid of this, we'll do it then." But that is just not a sane way to approach politics, and it's not a way to be a decent human being. I think it really shouldn't be that hard to have a rule. Either Pride is going to be 18 and up, and we're going to not allow children, or we're going to allow kink, nudity, etc. Right now, they're doing both, and that is demented. That is weird. That is not normal. It seems kind of illegal in some cases. I'm surprised they're not getting any trouble. I mean, I saw some videos of people who are literally nude on the street in front of children. I was under the impression that you should go to jail for that. But I don't know who these people think they're helping. I don't know who is organizing these events and has lost their mind. But this is what happens. They've become so politicized and so extreme that only like the most leftist, most politically active members of the community still go to these things, especially in the big cities. And when you seed the venue to those types of people, you end up with this extreme and crazy stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Thanks for tuning in. I see a lot of people watching us over on Rumble this morning, which I'm grateful for, but not a lot of likes. Why don't you click that like button? I know you have to be signed in order for you to be able to click like or comment over on the Rumble feed, but why don't you make today the day? Sign in, click that like button, introduce yourself so that we can get to know you a little bit better. My lovely wife, Stephanie Peterson, is corralling people over there this morning, so make sure you say hello to her as well. She is my secret weapon, my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife. So everybody say hello to Stephanie. And Steph, thanks so much for helping me to herd cats today. And if you're over on YouTube as well, a nice big audience too, we've got a good crowd today. And make sure you do the same. Click like and subscribe to the channel if it's your very first time here. I'm speaking to Brad Palumbo. He is the co-founder of basedpolitics.com. We're talking to him a little bit about a pride rally in New York City on Sunday, where activists loudly were shouting, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children." Now, Brad, from what I have heard from some of the people of this community, if your charitable definition of this would be, oh, that they're joking or they're trolling, but I think probably, the extreme, of this might be someone who considers themselves to be a MAP, right? What we might call a pedo, right? But in the middle is probably the reality, which is it's very likely that members of that community and the people who are shouting that believe themselves to be defenders of children, of LGBTQ youth, of young people. And I grew up in the 80s and 90s, Brad, and it was when I had gay friends, if we knew we either didn't know they were gay, we suspected they were, or they just hid it because they were terrified to come out of the closet. I don't think we want to go back to that, Brad. But some of these people with their, with chants like that are probably have the best of intentions in that they don't want to go back to where kids have to hide themselves, right? But then you also have the opposite extreme, which is, that they have pride days in school and they're waving the rainbow flag and things like that. And kids are talking to, teachers about their sexuality and things like that. So how do we sort of like split the baby here, if you will? Because I don't want to go back to I don't want to re-marginalize homosexuals. It's one of my favorite questions to ask like trad cons is, what's your plan to re-marginalize the homosexuals? If you ever get in a debate with them, ask them like that, because they start having it on and, stuttering. But how do we sort of like balance it out here? Because there are those people who do see themselves as defenders of children, not groomers or anything like that. What's your take?
Yeah, it's hard. I wish we could just like go back to where we were at on these debates, like maybe in 2017, maybe just a few years ago. Gay marriage was legal. Trans people, adults were rare, but not that many people truly cared when they were just adults doing what they wanted to do with their own bodies. I think the things that have made this so controversial again and have led to this backsliding are irreversible medical treatments being pushed on gender confused youth. I think people of all persuasions, including many gay and lesbian people, have serious concerns about that. And they're just told they're bigots, they're hate mongers, they want trans kids to unalive themselves, crazy things like that. And then, of course, unfortunately, many people are tribal thinkers. They either, are all in or all out. And when you tie basic notions of gay acceptance and tolerance, and even tolerance for adults with gender dysphoria, when you tie that to radical notions like kids must be allowed to make irreversible medical decisions that will leave them infertile for life, we have to pretend there's no biological realities in sports that affect fairness. These kinds of things that are so obviously extreme. There are 1,000 genders. Misgendering is hate speech. All this extreme stuff. A lot of people are going to look and say, I want nothing to do with all of that. Clearly, this was a slippery slope. We got to go back. And I just wish we could all return to this kind of sensible, sane position where we have tolerance for different people with different values and lifestyles and beliefs. We have legal equality under the law, but we protect kids and we acknowledge reality when it comes to things like sports and fairness. That shouldn't be that hard to do, but it's not what the extremes on either side want to do in their ideological pursuits or in their financial pursuits, right? A lot of this has come from left-wing activist groups that were dedicated to LGBT rights. Well, then they got them and needed to invent new causes to keep the donor checks coming in. And that's why we've seen the push to go to things like pansexual visibility day or whatever, that is just non-binary awareness, things that are essentially made up and not real, because they already got gay marriage. They already got anti-discrimination laws, right? They achieved their goals. Instead of packing up and going home, they decided to invent new ones so they could keep the donor checks and keep their high status And I think, unfortunately, they risk undoing all the progress that has been made in the process.
Yeah, that I couldn't agree more. And I wonder what our audience thinks. You can text the show today at 573-319-1586 if you'd like to have your voice heard or if you have a question for Brad. Brad, you tweeted about 19 hours ago a video of a Christian protester who was arrested at a pride parade for doing what ostensibly appears to be his God-given First Amendment right. He's, out there protesting, seems to be peaceful, and a police officer comes and gets in his face, puts him in handcuffs, and arrests him. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I was really disturbed, but I was actually more disturbed by the second part of the video where the audience, the LGBT activists, all cheer at this man being arrested. That was the most disturbing part to me because just a few decades ago, gay activists of all people understood the value of free speech. They were a minority viewpoint trying to change the world that was initially very unpopular, and that's who free speech is needed to protect. And yet now the modern iteration of these activists is cheering the state suppression of minority viewpoints. He wasn't doing anything. I looked into the case. Thankfully, the charges have been dropped. They tried to get him on disorderly conduct. There was no disorderly conduct. There was just free speech. So it's an attack on the First Amendment. To me, it's also a reminder of why we need to get rid of qualified immunity so he can sue that cop. But it's just disturbing to me to watch the extremes of the LGBT movement, the activists, the left-wing types really turn their backs on freedom of speech and freedom of expression because that was such a central value to the rise of their own movement. And now it's like they think that now that they're dominant, they want to suppress minority ideas. Well, you're going to shut down any future progress because all radical ideas that change society and are eventually viewed as widespread acceptance and good started out as minority. Abolition of slavery was a fringe minority viewpoint, and now we all know it was a wonderful, beautiful, much needed idea. You have to have free speech, and when radical activists of all people can't see that, something has gone deeply, deeply awry.
I imagine that most of the people who are watching us right now agree with you. So if you do, click that like button. This is the home of economic freedom and personal liberty here on the Wake Up America show. Every day, Monday through Friday, we bring you these kinds of opinions that you don't get to hear anywhere else other than perhaps based-politics.com, which is where Brad Palumbo drops his hot takes of the day. Justin Peterson, my brother, said, "We had a billboard Christian guy at Boston Pride Parade, but we all just walked by. It's his right to be there, even if he doesn't agree. Loss of free speech rights will always come for marginalized people and ideas first." I totally agree as well, but I'd love to hear the rest of the audience's take as well. Brad, I've got you for another couple of minutes, very briefly, if you wouldn't mind. Fill me in on this story because I actually, first time I heard about it was from you. You had tweeted this just a few days ago about Joe Biden. And this is a story where you say that Joe Biden refuses to acknowledge one of his grandchildren. What is this?
Isn't it crazy that you haven't heard of this? Because if
Yeah.
this was a Republican, it would be all over the mainstream media.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Biden has 7 grandchildren, including one that is an illegitimate daughter of Hunter Biden. Her name is Navy Joan. She's 4 years old. However, Joe Biden walks around and tells the world he has 6 grandchildren. He doesn't acknowledge Navy Joan, even though her paternity has been scientifically proven is as part of court proceedings. She is Hunter Biden's daughter. He, at the White House, they put out 6 stockings for his grandkids, none for Navy Joan. He openly shuns one of his grandchildren. Set all politics aside, I think that's vile. I think that's a really terrible thing to do. And I think if somebody like Trump did lots of vile, terrible things in his own personal life, right? And the media obsessed over all of them. I think if a Republican politician had that kind of clear and profound moral failing in their life that they were just openly doing, it would be something that was scrutinized. But I didn't hear about this until I read about it in conservative media recently. And yet think this would be something of interest to mainstream media and reporters, but it's not, because they are essentially at this point just running defense, running PR for the White House. And it's really disappointing to me as a journalist because we're not supposed to be on Team Blue or Team Red. We're supposed to hold power to account. And this seems like something very obvious that people, regardless of politics, really, just good people, should be like, hey, what's going on here? This is wrong. And when they are asked about it, when the White House is asked about it by, Fox News or the New York Post or something, they shut down the questions. They say, nope, not talking about it. This brought to you by the democracy, the people saving democracy, right? The whole thing is deeply disturbing to me. And it's just messed up. I feel bad for the kid. She didn't do anything wrong. It's not her fault her parents weren't married.
Couldn't agree with you more. Brad Palumbo, the co-founder of basedpolitics.com. Brad, you're going to be speaking at Freedom Fest here coming up here real soon. Do you want to give us a little sneak preview of that and maybe tell us where people can find out more about you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Freedom Fest, I'll be giving one speech about the mission of based-politics.com, Based Politics, which is to spread the message to the next generation through multimedia content, the message of freedom and individual liberty. And then I will also be doing a panel on LGBT issues on the right, kind of how to chart a sane and balanced approach on these issues. So hope to see you there. I know that you'll be there. We'll have to hang out. And if people are interested on more of my views on these issues, they can check out the Based Politics podcast or my solo podcast on LGBT issues, Damage Control.
Brad Palumbo, one of the best freedom fighters out there today. Congratulations. Good luck to you out there on Freedom Fest. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it. I'll be filming a documentary in the next couple of months, so it's going to be a really busy one for me. No, have a good time, though. We wish you the best. Check out Damage Control. My brother says love Brad's Damage Control on his YouTube channel, and our friends will drop the link to that. I'm sure Cheeky Mayor's already got your website up there in the chat. So thank you for your time today, Brad, and thanks for standing up for freedom.
Thanks.
We appreciate you. That's Brad Palumbo of basedpolitics.com. What do you think of Brad? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Andy Opperman sending me some slippery slope meme, which I don't think I'm going to be able to explain it, the meme. Maybe I'll try and pull it up. Jesse, who's tuning in this morning, wants to know when he can call in. Jesse, what day would you like? Well, are you available today, Jesse? Because if you'd like to call into the show, I can set you up right now. Here's what I'm going to do, Jesse, if you're listening to us right now. How about right now you wanted to call in? I'm going to go ahead and go to a very quick little commercial break, see if we can't get a caller on the line. We don't have calls a whole lot on the show. We don't usually take calls, but you know what? Today I'm going to try and hook it up. So I'll be right back with Jesse on the phone. He wants to talk. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericashow.com/support. Now, where was was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupamerica.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamerica.show.com. We're grateful to have you here on the program today. Looks like a nice big audience size, and we're grateful to have you here watching us over on Rumble. 50 people watching us on Rumble this morning, which is nice to see. About 35 to 40-ish watching us over on YouTube, and then on all of the other networks, Fire TV, Apple TV, and Roku. Oh, looks like we're getting that phone call. All right, give me 2 seconds. I will be right back. Right back.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism. All right, welcome back to the show. I had get our buddy Jesse on the phone line this morning, and he's joining us right now. Jesse is our caller. Good morning, Jesse. Thanks for joining us on the Wake Up America show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So
do you usually let random Twitter people?
No, actually, I don't. Usually the reason why is because you get trolls or people who just act up or they don't really have anything interesting to say. But you have something really interesting to say, an interesting point of view that I wanted to hear you share with our audience, because we were talking about Trump supporters, people who were big Trump supporters, and how they feel about him now versus how he was back in 2016. And I'm going to just give you the floor, Jesse, and go ahead and set it up for us and tell us how you feel.
Well, I voted for Trump twice, but I don't really want to vote for him again. I mean, even if I had to, I really don't want to. I don't think he cares about us. He's only doing it for ego. You know, he's only doing it to get people to talk about him and ego and all that. He doesn't care about us. He's done some bad things and all that. But what I loved about him was when you voted for him, he was kind of like a big middle finger to the establishment and politicians. Excuse me. And he drove everybody nuts. I think he exposed a lot of stuff at how terrible the media is, how terrible politics is, how terrible our government is. You know, they spent days just talking about him drinking Diet Coke and all that, whenever they could have been talking about anything, talking about anything else. And I like watching the media freak out and talk about how terrible he is, why they ignore how terrible other politicians are. But like I said, he done some bad things. He doesn't care about us. I don't want to vote for him again.
Well, why?
That doesn't mean I want to really vote.
Well, what is it? What has he really done? Like, what in terms of, like, you know, his greatest sin in your eyes as a former supporter? I mean, what really has bothered you the most?
Well, I think he went out like a coward and he didn't pardon Julian Assange and all that. Like, he did try to ban bump stock. And I like this pistol break thing. I did not comply with that. I will not comply. I think the bump stock is stupid too, because if you have a bump stock, if you ever try to use it, it's not like an automatic thing. Like, you can screw it up and not use it right. You know, it's not like the easiest thing just to throw on there and use. So, and there were several. I mean, of course, now I'm on radio, a little nervous. I can't think of everything. But there were several things he did, you know. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I was just really curious because I have heard from a lot of Trump supporters that they have been disappointed in the way that he handled the end of his presidency, like you had said. I think I don't hear any Trump supporters who defend the Julian Assange thing, who think that that's okay. You'll hear Trump supporters making excuses for him all day long on a variety of other issues, but not that.
Right. See, and that's the thing too, is like he hires these stupid people that are just part of the problem, and then he just goes around and like he the other day he badmouthed Kayleigh McEnany, and I thought she was like great, and then he badmouthed her just because he just wants it to be all about him. He lets his ego get in the way of doing things he should actually do.
Mm. What about the other candidates in the race? I mean, I hear from a lot of former Trump supporters that they've gone over to RFK Jr. What's your take on him?
I don't know if I can say this. I like some of his stuff. He gets like I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast, and he got a little out there on some of his stuff, obviously. And but he wants to take your guns and all that, but also at the same time he wants to disband the CIA. So I'm like, well, maybe if we elect him, he'll try to get rid of the CIA, and I'm kind of curious to see how the CIA will deal with it. Not that I want any harm to come to the guy, but
well,
you know.
but if he gets if he pulls a Jeffrey Epstein sometime in the next like 6 months or something like that, I think we all know where to point the fingers, don't we?
All right. So I really don't like anybody right now. I don't know if they call that being black-pilled or whatever, but I just don't think we're in a good spot, and I don't think us voting harder is going to fix a whole lot. So.
You just didn't vote hard enough. Jesse, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners this morning before we let you go?
No, that's about it.
Hey, Jesse,
like I said, thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for giving us a call. We appreciate it. I like to hear from Trump supporters and where their heads are at these days. Thanks so much for your call today, Jesse, and we hope to have you back on the show again another time whenever you got something to say.
Right.
Thanks, man. Have a good day. That's our buddy Jesse. We found him on Twitter, and I was like, you know what? This is an interesting point of view. Okay, so here's the dealio. I've got John Miltimore. He wants to talk about the show is just flying by. Okay, I want to get back to the Patriot Front, people, because I want to talk about this Jewish kid who is alleged to be a member of the Patriot Front that was unmasked. But I can't get there just yet. Here's what I'm going to do. I got John Miltimore, the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education, coming up next. That's a big name, I know. Managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. Okay, I can barely. The coffee must be working because I was able to say it. He wants to talk about this big meta story, right? This whole, not meta as in Facebook, but meta as in like above everything. He wants to talk about the death of cable news, the soon to happen death of cable news, and I'm excited for it. We're going to talk to John in like 2 minutes. I'll be right back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America Show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. How do you like those extra short commercial breaks? Well, that's what happens when you got so many people watching the Wake Up America Show. Good morning. Happy Monday. Thanks so much for tuning in. If it's your first time here to the show, make sure you click subscribe so that you can join us every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. And if you're a regular and you haven't clicked the like button yet, what are you doing? click that like button if you're a regular or not, just to help us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty, which is what my next guest is all about. As a matter of fact, he is the managing editor for the Foundation for Economic Education, which, if you're educated on economics, means that the policies of laissez-faire should dominate. Well, they do. The market always sorts everything out, doesn't it? Joining us now, John Miltimore. Good morning, John. How you doing, brother?
Hey, good morning, AP. How's it going today?
Oh, pretty good. I want to talk to you about your piece about cable TV, the death of cable TV, the coming death of cable TV being one of the greatest stories of our time. But if you don't mind, John, I know the reason why so many people have tuned in this morning on Rumble and YouTube, and we've got such a big audience today, is because of the title piece, which is, did you happen to see this story over the weekend of these Proud Boys who went and roughed up the Patriot Front guys, the ones with all the masks, and ripped their masks off? What's your take on this?
It's funny because I hadn't really thought about this until I saw it on your show today. So I was thinking, like, how do I answer this? I won't speak for the whole libertarian answer, okay? My personal view on this is this: if people are out there meddling and doing things they're not supposed to be doing, and they're doing it, they're concealing themselves. If somebody takes your mask off, that's your fault, right? And I'm not comfortable with all these people running around with masks and doing things that are either criminal or borderline, criminal, when you're, abusing people, destroying property and getting away with it because you're wearing a mask. And does it violate, the non-aggression principle to take someone's mask off? I don't know. I do know, like for example, when the American Patriots were doing stuff like the Boston Tea Party, when they were doing things that, you look back, there were some things in our American Revolution, right? That you're like, oh, well, that was, look at some of the things they did. They were destroying property, throwing tea overboard and all this. I don't think they were concealing themselves. And if they were, and something happened, like they were, we didn't have cameras back then.
I don't think war paint
that would be on them, right?
Yeah.
Were they? I guess they did conceal themselves, maybe as Native Americans or something, didn't they?
You're right, but at the Boston Tea Party, they dressed up as Native Americans, putting on war paint, but they didn't cover their faces with masks. And at the Boston Massacre, the kids who threw stones at the British as well weren't. If they had, anything covering their faces, it was just because it was so cold out.
Yeah, and that's where I come down. Look, like this isn't good. If somebody takes your mask off and snaps a picture, I think the tough luck for you, buddy. That's where I come down.
Yeah, no, I agree. And these Patriot Front protesters show up at pride rallies and doing the Heil Hitler salute, and there's a lot of talk by the libertarian community that they might be feds, and I'm willing to believe that, honestly, John. I do think that our government, knowing the history of the FBI and what they tried to do they tried to get Martin Luther King Jr. to commit suicide. Knowing the history of federal agents in this country and what they've done. I mean, they assassinated Che Guevara. They tried to assassinate Fidel Castro 75 times with exploding cigars and poisoned ice cream and all kinds of stuff. I wouldn't put it past the feds to try and, I know they join groups, patriot groups like these, but I wouldn't put it past them to try and act as a Jean Provocateur. What about you?
Well, no, there's a long history of that, and you and I talking about it, we're probably getting on a list right now, as people to keep an eye on. But no,
if you weren't on a list
100%.
by now, John, then you're not a real patriot.
That's probably true. No, here's the thing. The scary part is our government has been doing this stuff a lot longer than I realized. If you go back, I got the book right in front of me right now. You probably won't be able to see it on here, but it's called The Devil's Chessboard by David Talbot, and it's a history of the CIA. And I just finished it, and Talbot he's not a libertarian like you and I. He's a leftist. He's a New Deal progressive, but he does a masterful job of looking at what the CIA has been up to for the last 60 years or so, and it is chilling stuff. And most Americans just simply wouldn't believe that we've been doing these things, as you say, assassinations around the globe, things done to U.S. citizens on our own home front here that I think it would just turn Americans' hair white. So you see instances like we're seeing here of this stuff all boiling over. Are there federal agents in there? I have no idea. I know we have good stuff. Look at January 6th. Secret Service was all over in that, we know that there's a number of them that were dressed in their official, uniforms, but many of them were not. We, Hundreds we're talking, that many in plain clothes. How many of them were embedded? We don't know, but I think it's pretty clear that some were. All of that stuff is pretty chilling. And the worst part about it is we still can't get answers, right? You ask direct questions like, did you have agents here? Did you have assets here? And we don't get any answers. And that's the worst part. The fact that this stuff is done is chilling, but that we can't even, after it's done, get any clear answers about, who was there and why. That there's no accountability. And I think Americans are finally getting there, where there's a lot of pressure to get answers on this front. But media is really compliant. Like they're working now hand in hand with, instead of being the watchdog, the fourth estate is now helping the government conceal all this stuff. And that's pretty chilling too.
We've got over 100 people watching us confirmed live right now. Good morning to everyone. Nice to see you all here today. Grateful to have you as a viewer of the Wake Up America show. If you're enjoying the content that you're hearing this morning, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to whichever channel you're watching us on, so that you can get our awesome interviews and views. Lots of freedom rants here as well. We've got 40 on YouTube and 63 over on Rumble right now, puts us over the top. And then, of course, we've got, I believe, several dozens of people as well joining us on many other apps. So grateful to have you here. So we hope that we'll see you again on the Wake Up America show. And you're tuning in at a great time, because I'm speaking to one of my favorite guests, John Miltimore. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. I was talking to him a little bit about the Patriot Front, which had two of its members unmasked after an altercation with Proud Boys over the weekend. One last question on this topic, John, and then I'd like to move on to your excellent piece over at fee.org. But one of the people who have been unmasked in this as a member of Patriot Front is alleged to be this young man by the name of Ben Brody. He was demasked and promptly doxxed, and his information was put out there as a member of a Jewish fraternity. He has expressed aspirations of working for the government after graduation. He is a criminology major, which, that major right there ought to tell you what is it somebody wants to do after graduation. So when you put those pieces together, let's dive into the conspiracy theories on this one, John. When you see somebody's a criminology major, they're a member of a Jewish fraternity. I mean, you don't see too many Jewish Nazis. I'll tell you this. When I was in Washington, D.C., I met every stripe of weirdo politically that there was. And I did meet one Jewish Nazi who said that she would gladly send all of her people to the concentration camps and then get on the very last train herself to the concentration camp. And she was legitimately 100% serious about it, because she was just certifiably insane. But when you hear the bio of this gentleman, and you hear what he's studying and majoring in, is that the kind of thing that would throw up some red flags for you?
Oh, there's all kinds of red flags. And here's the one thing, I give the feds enough credit. They're smart. They don't get their fingerprints on this too often. They don't, he doesn't need to be working for the federal government in official capacity or anything like that. But they can certainly find people that they can use for things like this. I didn't look at this story as much as you thought. So Patriot Front, is that supposed to be a radical left-wing group or a radical
No, the
right-wing
Patriot
group?
Front, like you're thinking of Antifa. So the Patriot Front, those are the guys who wear the masks and then the khakis, and they're all these like young, kind of like, healthy looking guys, which, the typical neo-Nazi type that you see is usually like, toothless, out of shape, with not the typical, or a skinhead or something like that. But these are all these like young guys who like look like they're in shape to be able to meet the physical demands of either operating within the U.S. military or within an intelligence agency or something. Like the federal agencies, have physical fitness standards for their younger operators. And so this young Ben Brody character, who is alleged to be the person that they unmasked in this one, right, is a major in criminology. He wants to work for the government after he's out. So, who knows? Maybe he's, maybe he's acting as an informant for the feds or something like that, which again, still an informant to me, might as well be a fed. But I want to know who these guys are, because I honestly think that they are a psyop, meant to get people to turn against right-wing causes and as a way to stir up violence in this country. And I want to know who those people are.
Oh, absolutely. And the people that were pushing around, those were the Proud Boys then. Is
The
that what I'm
Proud,
hearing?
so it was like, yeah, the Gavin McInnes crew, the
Okay.
Proud Boys, who were calling them out, saying that they were racist, calling out the Patriot Front guys, saying, "You racist mother, you know what?" All this kind of stuff. And I'm like, this is hilarious because all day long the Proud Boys are getting smeared as racists, and yet here they are calling out the Patriot Front guys as racists. So I don't know, because the Patriot Front guys, I don't know if you've seen them, but like they've done like the Heil Hitler salute at drag rallies and different things like that. So it's like, I don't know, it's a mess, John, but sure is fun to talk about.
It is, and here's the thing. I think this is something Americans don't know what to believe. They don't know what to believe is true. The fact that we can even think our government might be involved in a psyop like this is terrifying. But you're not crazy to think that something like that could be happening. So this young man was doxxed. We'll have to see. Hopefully we can get some people to ask him some questions. I'm sure he's not going to be forthcoming. But yeah, we do need answers about stuff like this. And in all of this, here's a larger issue. If you go back to like the 1920s in Germany, you had all these street wars and stuff like this, all these radicalized groups. This is pretty new to America. We've only seen this in the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years or something like that, I think, where it's really been picking up steam. We've seen all this before. It does not end well. And we're seeing the radicalized left and the radicalized right now, like openly kind of at war. All of this, we need to put a pin in this and put it back and just say this isn't helpful for anyone. But if it is determined that the federal government has any fingerprints on stuff like this, people need to go down. People need to lose jobs over this. And we need to pull back the curtain on that because this is dangerous stuff and it's sinister stuff.
Hell yeah. Thanks so much for humoring me on that topic there at the last second, John. I appreciate that. But I'd like to move on to your piece now that I told you I was going to talk about because I think it's great, especially because of me trying to make my way in this business as a libertarian podcaster. It's funny whenever I tell people what it is that I do for people ask what I do for a living. I went to an alumni thing over the weekend and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to explain it because people are confused. They think I still work for conservative talk radio, or they're like, "Are you still working for Fox News in New York?" and all those kind of stuff. Because a lot of people don't really quite understand that the revolution that is occurring online. If I say I'm just a podcaster, they'll think, "Oh, well, I live in my mom's basement and I make no money." But in reality, like I'm at the forefront of a technological revolution that's given me the creative ability to not work for Fox News, to not work for KWOS, to not work for any of these mainstream media institutions that would suppress some of the spicier sides of my opinions, suppress my ability to say the words like fuck or shit or damn, and suppress my ability to earn 100% of the advertising revenue that I generate from this podcast and the subscription revenue that I generate from this podcast. I really am at right there at the spearhead of the death of the mainstream media, not just to pat myself on the back, but as a good segue, John, for your piece, why you think the coming death of cable TV is one of the greatest stories of our time. Explain.
Yeah, no, it is an exciting time to be in media. And, just a little history. I've been hearing about the death of cable since I was 5, and I'll turn 44 years old next month. So I've been hearing this story for a long time, and I always kind of take it with a grain of salt. But there was a prominent media analyst that just, said, hey, it's happening. Like the fees that companies pay to get those rights are getting too high. Soon it's not going to be profitable anymore for to purchase those rights from Fox. Cable is going the way of the dodo and he anticipates within the next 5 or 10 years some sort of form of it might linger on. But if you look, there's always this change, like in economies, right? Creative destruction is something we've understood, is a theory for 70, 80 years, even longer, I guess, than that when I think about it. Normally it's something you're kind of sad about this stuff, right? Like when when Radio Shack goes up, there's kind of something sad about that. Like when all these economies change, you lose businesses. This is a happy story because cable is really, it sucks, right? And cable news, it sucks. And we have so many better options now. And streaming is great. It's great for consumers who can go out and say, you know what, I don't have to purchase 150 channels, and pay, whatever, people are paying for cable today, $200. You can kind of go and just select the ones you want. And there was some great data. I was trying to find this, right before as we were coming on here. People saw me looking at my other computer. The numbers are astonishing. I think it was something like 70 million households when Trump was first elected. It was something like 70 million households, and now it's down to like it's almost fallen in half to that from today. And that's a very short period of time, right? We're looking at like a 50% decline. So it's happening before our eyes. It's great for consumers. It's great for content creators like you and I, right? Like this is the time we're in a great time for media. And here's something I didn't go about in that article, which I actually wrote for the American Institute for Economic Research first, and we just republished it, at FEE. It's a friendly organization to FEE. And one of the best parts we didn't go in, you cannot control a media like this, right? Like it was very easy for government back in the days of Walter Cronkite, or even this, with cable, you could really filter the message and keep it. You can't do that. And I think that's why people are so rattled. And we're seeing all this, all these efforts as, oh, we know what's true. This is disinformation, and you're not allowed to speak on Twitter or YouTube. They want to be able to control that. But they really can't. At least they can't, they're trying to do it right now through, like the big tech companies like Facebook and YouTube. Elon Musk makes it much harder. And if you look, look at Tucker's exit, right? Like, it sucks. Tucker had a massive contract. His message is still going to be out there, and it's going to be on Twitter, and he's going to find his own creative way to make deals over there. And he's going to have more people seeing his content. So that's what the article's about. You can find it on FEE right now at fee.org. But to me, it was like, there's a lot of bad news out there. This is a really exciting story, and one I don't think enough people are really paying attention to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's such a temptation to engage in what we call doom scrolling these days, where when you're just from one video to another of how terrible society has fallen, and the Pride Parade, and they're yelling, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children," and then scroll up to the next video, which is Christian nationalism is the only way forward, and then scroll to the next video, and it's like, Satan is my motor, and I love Satan, and it's just like every time, and you're just like, oh God, it just gets worse and worse and worse. But this is a good bright spot, which is the death of the control mechanisms for information in our society. And we saw this early on, in the earlier days of the Arab Spring was a perfect example of this, where the information, the tyrants made the mistake of allowing these, I say made the mistake, for their own survival, of allowing these platforms to proliferate in their communities, because they didn't understand or recognize the power of these networks. I think probably, fortunately for us here in the United States, people like, Senator Josh Hawley is just, somebody that a traditional punching bag for me in this one when it comes to social media, because as someone myself, I live my life online, and he's someone who's never online. He wants to regulate and control the internet here in the United States. It's something that he knows absolutely nothing about, right? Which is probably to our benefit, that the people who are trying to control the internet in the U.S. Congress. I don't know if you remember this guy from Texas, or not Texas, but Alaska. This old senator, I think it was Ted Stevens, who says,
"Oh yeah,
the internet is it's not something you can touch. It's not like a truck. It's a series of tubes." And for years we were calling it a series of tubes. But we're probably better off that tyrants and would-be tyrants here in the United States don't know diddly squat about it.
100%, and it is a great thing. This is what terrifies government. They can't control it. And from the beginning, there was something, to our credit, the United States very early, created, liberal in the classical sense, a very free internet, right? And other countries, not as much. But you're seeing as we go on, there are more and more efforts to control it. Like, we just can't have Austin Peterson out there giving his message out, right? Like people, that they're going to try to find ways to control this. They can't. And the internet is kind of a saving grace. Does it have a lot of bad things? Sure. And one of the things you talk about, I think, is a real danger, right? Like, we look on the internet, we see all this chaos, and it affects us as individuals, right? Like, I've felt it at different times, like, oh my gosh, what is going on out there? But we forget the world's always been a pretty messy place. In some ways, it's a little messier now. because ideologies are all over the place, right? And we're seeing like the Western thought kind of some of the Western philosophy is collapsing, and we have all these competing ideologies. But the normal world is pretty sane. But if you're somebody who's online for 12 hours a day and consuming all this stuff, it's going to affect you. So I always tell people, get offline. Make sure you're getting the
Yes, touch grass.
exercise. Yeah,
Exactly.
walk your dog, whatever it is.
One of the nice things of getting offline every once in a while too is you don't have to be inundated with all the shirtless pictures of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which every
He looks good though.
Yeah, he might look good, but I wonder if that's all natural. I doubt that it is, because he is a guy who rails against big pharma every single day. And you don't get to be 70 years old with those kinds of muscles without some big pharma helping you out. Real quick, Kermode Bear over on Rumble says, I work in online authentication and authorization. We have a lot of large cable companies as clients. Traffic is down about 20 to 30% from just a few years ago for those guys. Cable is dying, and quickly. Thanks, Kermode Bear, for that great comment. Yeah, on Sunday, my wife and I, we were. This is a long story short, but a buddy of ours is a falconer. Right, he's going through the process of becoming a falconer. So he's explaining to us all these stories about like how to hunt. How you catch an eagle in order to like turn it into your pet that you can use as like a hunting pet.
You can
right?
do that for an eagle?
You can do that for an eagle.
Wow.
Yeah. Golden eagles, you can do it. And then some like there's like hawks and things in the United States that you can do it with. Some eagles are protected in the United States, but there are some that you can do, like a golden eagle, for example, which is not protected for that kind of a thing. So, anyways, he tells us about this documentary on National Geographic, or no, it's 60 Minutes. And it's like, so, okay, so we're going to find this 60 Minutes episode, my wife and I. So I was like, all right, well, what can I really get here with streaming? And they're like, oh, you can watch with this package, you can watch CBS News for free. And I was just kind of like, oh, I was waiting for my wife to come back and so we could watch it. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I can watch regular TV on this thing. Okay, interesting. Wow, how quaint, cable TV. So I went and I switched the channel, tried to figure it out how to get over to CBS. Instantly turned on CBS Sunday Morning, and the first words that I heard out of the anchor's mouth were, with the rise of white supremacist violence in the United States. I was like, okay, done, boom, turned it off, went back over to YouTube or whatever it was that I was watching the channel. I was like, I haven't watched mainstream media television in maybe 20 or 30 years, and probably going to be another 20, 30 years before I turn it back on. Well, I'll check on it in another 20, 30 years. How about you, John?
Amen. No, we cut the cord like probably 15 years ago. We have a digital antenna. We can get most local stuff with that and a few other things, but we stream the stuff we want. And I like to think about how much time I save by not watching crappy television and how much money I save by not paying for stuff I'm not watching. If you haven't cut the cord, people listening, consider it. For me, it was a great decision. It sounds like it was for you as well.
Yeah, the smart ones have already moved on to their own streaming service that I won't be paying for anyway. Hey, John, anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go?
No, everything's great here. Happy Monday to everyone. Check out the article on fee.org, and my personal Substack is The Take. And I think I have it posted on there as well. So thanks for the invitation, Austin.
Hey, appreciate it, John. Your weekly segments here on the Wake Up America show, I always look forward to, especially on Monday mornings, because you're a terrific guest. So thanks for the work you're doing for freedom. We appreciate you.
Hey, thank you, sir. Have a great week.
Thank you as well. What do you think of John Miltimore? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. I knew that this was going to come up. The weird homoerotic stuff going on with Robert F. Kennedy. Yeah, Chris Morrill over the live stream says the same. He says, I was wondering when all this vaguely homoerotic RFK Jr. business might come up. Every shirtless photo that I have seen of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I have seen against my will on my Twitter timeline. I do not consent to shirtless photographs of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And look at all this simp. There's so many, there's all these guy simps, like male simps, simping for RFK Jr. out there. Like, oh, he's buff. They're showing these memes of him being all buff and stuff like that. And listen, I'm glad that he's healthy. I would love to look like that when I get into my senior years. But I'll just say that it is a little bit weird watching men straight men simping for RFK Jr. in his shirtless pics. Okay. I mean, it is a little bit odd. I'll just say it's a little bit gross and weird. And I know some people who are into shirtless men and they're not even really that into it. But what do you think? Do you think that he's juicing there? I don't know. Salen over on the live stream this morning had a good content. Jeff Salen, he had a good comment. He says he's a Kennedy. I'm sure he has money. You could be a senior and be jacked without the jabs if you work hard enough and spend enough cash. Maybe, but I really doubt it. I think that there is a chance of that, but I think you might just, Jeff, maybe you're simping for RFK Jr. just a little bit. I think yeah, and the onion dip over in Rumble says, I choose RFK over Bill Gates. Okay, yes. If I had to choose between RFK Jr. and Bill Gates, it wouldn't be by a lot. Because I still do like Microsoft to some extent because I like ChatGPT and the artificial intelligence. Yeah. So news was better before the widespread availability. Sleep aids used to actually suffer when you lied to the public and contributed to societal downfall, says Bayless Frogs. I don't know how to say that name. But if you're watching us, like 70 people are over on rumble.com this morning. Good morning. What's up, Rumblers? 71 people. You guys are awesome. I'd love it if I could get half as many likes as there are people who are watching us right now. If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show. And we were talking about the death of mainstream media. I'm going to get back to the Patriot Front discussion here in just like 2 minutes. But we're talking about the death of mainstream media. And I know what you're going to say or how you're going to feel when I switch to this next scene where I talk about my sponsor. But I want you to understand just how important sponsors like this are for cutting the cord for us to be able to fight the mainstream media. The power base is always going to be money. And so how can Austin Peterson afford to do the Wake Up America show? Well, I get support from monthly donors, people who are watching the show who donate $17.76 a month or $5 a month or $2 a month to the Wake Up America show. So we've got a pool of donors, but the big money always will be from advertisers, at least from my experience. And Lear Capital, when an advertiser advertises on a show like this, you have to understand that, being edgy, having spicy content, having the kinds of opinions that I have and that I broadcast on this show, they take a risk, right? That there's a chance that there's a backlash. And so knowing what we did to Bud Light, when we took down Bud Light, right? We have to do the opposite when it comes to people who take risks and advertise on shows like these. And even the bare minimum of going to Lear Capital's website at learaustin.com and signing up for a free gold and silver information kit is a way to fight back against censorship and a way to help bring about the end of the mainstream media. Because Lear Capital says Austin Peterson has got a message that we agree with, and we're willing to take any backlash that might come to support Austin's show. So why don't you, if you like what you're hearing this morning, visit them and find out a great way to secure your financial future by putting some actual physical gold and silver medals into your portfolio at learaustin.com. That's learaustin.com. That's learaustin.com. Find out more about how to invest in gold and silver in your portfolio today. You can call them at 1-800-885-2175, and I highly encourage you to do so. If you give them a call today, let them know you heard about us from the Wake Up America show. Call that number that's on your screen and say, hey, I'd like to find out more about taking a little bit of gold and silver and putting it into either my retirement portfolio, right, where you get the tax advantages, or just have them ship it straight to your house. Visit learaustin.com. That's learaustin.com, or call 1-800-885-2175. Boy, the live stream chat is just cracking me up today. Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend, hilarious name, says, those Kennedy bucks, I bet it's plastic surgery. Smalls 5000, hilarious, says, bunch of straight dudes threw out their political standards for a man who can lift and wants to ban guns. Amen. Amen. I'm not simping for RFK Jr., which I know a lot of libertarians are. Jeff Salen says, when I first saw that dude, I thought it was Arnold. I don't think Arnold juices, but I really don't know. I just think it's possible to be old, jacked, and not juice. Possibly. There are 70-year-olds that are ripped, says Representative of the Republic. It is true, but listen, if you were going to put your own money on it, let's play a little game, if you will. If you had to put money on RFK Jr. being ripped, natural or not, what would you guess? What would you say? Let's hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. Send us a text 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Dusk over on Rumble this morning has been chiming in, and we've been grateful to hear from him. He's saying, these are not our only options. Dr. Billiam Gates isn't a doctor or a programmer. He isn't even human, in my humble opinion. Very funny. Somebody else says, simping for Microsoft. Hey, I worked with Apple computers for a number of years, and that not worked for them or anything like that, but like used Microsoft products and Apple products for a number of years. And there is just a superiority of Microsoft products versus Apple products, because when you get a problem with your Apple product, usually it's a system-wide endemic problem that completely crashes what you're doing. Versus with Microsoft, where you can kind of section things off and cordon things off. I'm not going to get into Microsoft versus Apple over these days, but I'm not a huge Apple fan, honestly. I do use some Apple products, but not all. Bitchmobile over on Rumble says that she thinks that RFK Jr. is not natural. I'm not putting that picture up on the screen. I know that I would probably get more viewers tuning in right now if they opened it up and looked at the screen and saw RFK Jr. shirtless, but I'm not going to do it. You know why? Because I have integrity. Damn it, I have integrity. It's fading fast, though. We'll say. To play devil's advocate, nothing wrong with managed juicing, says Smalls 5000. Yes, no, exactly. Not that there's anything wrong with that. However, would you? And I honestly want to know, Smalls, and I want to get everybody weighing in on this one. Do you think that he would be a bit of a hypocrite for doing so, because he is such an anti-big pharma kind of a guy, right? So if he is juicing and taking roids, or vitamin S, as my brother called it, if he is juicing and taking big pharma supplements like that, would you say that undermines his position a little bit? I'm just dying to know, because honestly, I think it would undermine your position a little bit, right? Because if you're all anti-big pharma and all that kind of stuff, you'd think that you'd be a little more skeptical about taking things. You get the jab, but not the vaccine, right? Different kind of jab. I just try not to embarrass myself with such a huge audience this morning. Good morning. Wow. We don't normally see these kinds of numbers. Usually we get a small but scrappy crew of about 30 to 40 average viewers in the morning, but now we're averaging 70, 80, 90, and sometimes hitting up over 100 from what I can see. Of course, I'm not including those who are watching us on Fire TV, Apple TV, and Roku. I don't normally get those statistics until the end of the month, but from what I understand, we had an extra 125,000 views of the Wake Up America show last month due to our connection through the Spreely app. Spreely, speak freely. And if you're watching us this morning on Apple, Fire TV, or Roku, you're likely because you're watching us through that app. We're grateful to have you here this morning on the show. And if you like what you're hearing today, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel so that you can get more updates whenever we're live, which is every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. We're grateful to have you here. Barney Stiles says Rogan is anti MMA but pro stem cells. Anti mRNA but pro stem cells. Yeah, I'm not sure. Honestly, I have some opinions about big pharma and some of these things, but I just don't kind of fall into any like one side or another on this debate. Some parts of what big pharma does is terrific. Like we all love our analgesics, right? We all love our Advil, Tylenol, ibuprofen, what have you, whenever we got a headache. But we all hate them whenever they're involved in a massive scamdemic that puts people on their back foot for 2 or 3 years and shuts down schools and turns into a massive wealth redistribution scheme from a tyrannical government caused by a Chinese lab leak that was funded in part through scammy pass-through organizations that were given them the money by the head of the coronavirus task force group here in the United States, Dr. Doom himself, Anthony Fauci. So, these things are a little bit more complicated on that. anti-anime or pro stem cells, says JP. You guys are cracking my up this morning. I swear to God, I can't do anything this morning without laughing. All right, it is time for us, though, to get back to the title segment of this show, which is Patriot Front Unmasked. I'm going to go ahead and pull up that video again of Patriot Front forces clashing with the formerly headed by Gavin McInnes group, the Proud Boys. Take a look at this. This is, and you can see up here that the tweet that I'm posting this from is from Adam Kinzinger, who is saying, essentially sort of confirming in a weird way that these are actually feds, the Patriot Front group, only feds. You don't have to be lonely at patriotfedsonly.com. All right, Austin, shut up. Here we go.
Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of here! Back up! Back up!
FYI, there will be a lot of bad language in this one. So if you got kids around, or your mother or grandmother is listening to in the background, things like that, turn it down.
Get the fuck out! Go! You too! Go! Get the fuck out! Be gone, bitch!
Is the begone bitch guy. He reminds me of this guy from the movie The Abyss, which my wife had never seen, so I showed it to her over the weekend. The character in The Abyss with the Arkansas hat, who was like had the curly hair and stuff, and like the redneck oil driller guy and stuff like that. Anyways, begone bitch. That's my man right there.
Be gone!
Love Be Gone, by the way. We should be using Be Gone more in regular conversations. All right, so here's the thing. So if you're looking at this right now, you're wondering what's this deal with these yellow hats. So the yellow hats with the appears to be olive branches or laurels here. This is, I believe, the logo for the Proud Boys. So the guys in the yellow hats here, if you see a guy with a yellow and black hat or a yellow and black shirt, that is kind of the Proud Boys colors, I guess gang colors, if you want to call it that. And then the Patriot Front guys, you can see here with the hats, and they wear the balaclavas around their face. So they're covering their identities here. So the Patriot Front guys are coming up and kicking them out of this event. And you can see here that in just a moment, an altercation is going to break out between these two groups, in which two of these gentlemen will be unmasked. Let's continue.
Go, fucking racist motherfucker! Casey, you're a faggot, dude! You hit me with that big bro, what's up? You saying all that shit about me, racist! Go! Go! Get the fuck out of here, dude!
So apparently they know who one of these guys already because allegedly one of those Patriot Front members there is a gentleman by the name of Casey Knutson. Knutson, Knutson. I don't know how to pronounce it. Do you? Is it Knutson? I don't know. Let's call him Knutson anyways. So this, but that is before he's unmasked. So they are calling him out. They must have known who he was, and he has shown up at events around the country before, but he's about to be unmasked. Take a listen.
Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out! Go, bitches! Go, bitches! Go, bitches! He didn't talk.
The Onion Dip, who's following us over on Rumble this morning, he claims to be a member of the Proud Boys. Good morning, Onion Dip. He says Knutson is a failed Proud Boy. Yeah, that's what I was able to see this morning. Honestly, Onion Dip, if you could give us some background on some of these individuals, I'd be super grateful. So if you want to fill us in, if you have any kind of insider information that you can share with us publicly, please do so. That way I can share with the rest of the crew this morning. Will Run Riot says laptop's about to poop out. Hopefully you'll be able to stick around with us for the rest of the show. Will, we always appreciate your let's appreciate your POV. Is it Knutson or is it Newts? Oh, Newts. Anyways, let's continue here. Big numbers on the show today. I'm super grateful for the big audience. I know the topic definitely has got people coming in, but make sure that you click subscribe so that you can hear, because we've always got a great show Monday through Friday here on the Wake Up America show. And I think you would like, if you like what you're hearing today, I think you'll like to watch the show every day. Okay, here we go. So let's back up just a moment here. Let's see what this kind of out. All right, so here's the guy who's coming in and he's elbowing him and stuff like that. Obviously a violation of the non-aggression principle. But if they're feds, here's the question. If they're feds, is it okay to violate the NAP? Probably. Let's continue. Damn. Okay, boom. First punch thrown. And now we've hit violence. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Pretty good ground and pound there.
Fuck yeah, dog.
One of them has been unmasked. Casey Knutson, allegedly the failed Proud Boy member here. What do you have to do to fail the Proud Boys? How do you get kicked out of the Proud Boys is what I'd like to know. All right, let's keep playing it. Keep playing it.
Get the fuck out!
Be gone. Be gone. So, boom, let's pause here for just a moment. You see this gentleman right here, this unmasked member of Patriot Front. This is allegedly Casey Knutson. There he is right there. Who's considered to be a failed member of the Proud Boys, at least by our buddy Onion Dip, who's joining us over on Rumble this morning, claims to be a member. This guy lost his hat. And look at this. This is the police officer, or I guess security. Is she a police officer? She looks like sort of more of a. She looks like a dopey fat security guard. She's not going to stop any violence from happening right now. Now, I know some women who could kick people's ass, but this is not one of them. Here we go. Let's take a look. America's only enforcers, Proud Boys, with the brass knuckles. Which, by the way, I actually don't recommend using brass knuckles and things like that. You're just as likely as much to hurt yourself as you are to hurt the other person using them. So, just use a what do you call it? Knife hand. We call it churan shuto uke in Japanese. Become a proud girl, says Johnny Rankin. Hilarious.
Take the mask off!
All right, so let's analyze this here for just a moment. Boom, take the mask off. So Casey Knutson right here, allegedly, Casey Knutson has been unmasked. And then now looky here, boom, that's the moment when this Proud Boy here grabs, and he's got a mask on himself, it looks like, a balaclava himself. So, interesting. He grabs the mask off of, allegedly, this gentleman's name is Ben Brody, who is allegedly a political science major from San Fernando Valley. He is listed publicly as saying that after graduation, he plans to work for the government. He's also allegedly a member of a Jewish fraternity, which this Jewish fraternity has shut down their social medias. Ben Brody's page has been suspended. And some people are saying things like, oh, well, he's Jewish, so that means he must be a Fed. Well, not necessarily, just because if you think, that, young Jewish kids can't get caught up in these kinds of weird white supremacy groups, then I'll just tell you, as somebody who has run around in these circles and dwelled around in politics and the edge of these circles, you will find all manner of weirdos in all kinds of strange groups. So it is absolutely possible that you will get like a young Jewish kid thinking that he's going to fit in with all these white kids at the Patriot Front. It's kind of like Kanye West, right? Perfect example. Does it have to make sense that Kanye West is out defending Nazis and Adolf Hitler? Does that make sense? A black man defending the National Socialism? No, it doesn't make sense, right? It's just like that weird guy, who was the Hispanic mass shooter recently that happened, and everybody was like the Hispanic face of white supremacy. We were kind of laughing about it, but I mean, the guy was a cartel member who idolized National Socialism, right? So we're talking about people with mental illness, most of these people, but for a lot of these young kids, they just want to find a group to fit in. And honestly, a lot of these people join these groups because they're losers. They can't make it in normal society. They can't build healthy friend groups. So they go and they join these groups online, and then they go to these meetups thinking that they're feeling like they can actually belong. I mean, a lot of the big problems that we have in a modern society comes from these young males who aren't able to express themselves in a healthy form of masculinity with one another, whether it's through sports or through collegiate groups or things like that. So they join these extremist groups either as a troll that they think it's funny or online, and then a lot of them turn out to either be feds that are there, the glowies that are there to inform on them, and they're just so they're either feds, some of them, or they are people who are just caught up in these extremist groups because typically they're losers. And like this Knutson guy or the Onion, our buddy over on Rumble was talking about, they couldn't hack it as a member of the Proud Boys, so they went and joined the Patriot Front because nobody liked him. You can text the show today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. My brother Justin is correcting my grammar. He says, I thought the word was unmask. Grammar police have entered the chat. Did I say demask? Yes, sorry about that. And Justin also says, men are lonely and these groups offer belonging. Oh, so true. The loneliness epidemic here in the United States. Katie556 on Rumble's asking the real questions. She says, how the F can a cartel member be the Hispanic face of white supremacy? Obviously, it's a joke. I mean, we're talking about psychopaths here, murderous lunatics, right? That trying to find some kind of rhyme or reason to their ideology, I think, is a mistake. Uh, because Dusk says some glowies use brown gangs for wet work, or he was paid to join the Patriot Front, or it's just possible that he wanted to work for the government. This Ben kid wanted to work for the government, and he joins this group and wants to be be an informant so that he can have an inside track on getting a job with the feds. So here he is, boom! He had his thing ripped off. He covers his face, thinking that he. Too late, buddy.
You guys are taking the streets back, are
Casey, they know him. They know him. Casey couldn't cut it as a Proud Boy. F you Nazis. It's just such good stuff, man. It's such good stuff. What do you guys think about this? I'm dying to get your opinion on this one. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. One of my listeners texted in this morning, said, I have to admit that today, as I worked out, it is harder to have that ripped, sweetie body. One donut gets me. So how is it possible that RFK, how is it possible that he is on something, but he is no ordinary man? Anyone who wants to take my guns is no American. P.S. Good morning. Good morning, you crazy texter who I have no idea who you are. Glad to have you here. Will Run Riot over on Rumble says, not gonna lie, sleeveless dude looks like a guy I knew from the Ozark Mountain chapter. You never know. Kermode Bear says, if you want me to support someone, start lying about them. The Proud Boys have been lied about many times. I hate injustice. I agree with you. Yeah, I think a lot of lies have been spread about the Proud Boys. And I'll tell you this, I never joined the Proud Boys organization because I would never join a club that would have me as a member. But I know some people who are members of the Proud Boys, and generally I have a fairly high opinion of them. I have not seen them out doing they're not like the Patriot Front. You don't see Proud Boys out doing the Nazi salutes or things like that. Maybe there have been some and I haven't seen them, but I haven't. When I see things like that, I'm not the type of person to ignore it. Jacob Champion says, frankly, the idea that someone of Spanish descent could be fascist is ridiculous. Very funny, Jacob Champion. Rare Camellia says, reactionary support would be a mistake, though, possibly. But I will say that I think that the Proud Boys have gotten a bad name from people that have ulterior motives to spread lies about them. And I honestly have a high opinion of Gavin McInnes. And it's not to say that I agree with everything Gavin McInnes says. And I think he probably pals around with the some darker elements of the right that I don't agree with. But you know what? It's a free country and he's got free speech and he ought to be allowed to if he wants to. It's like this tweet that I saw and reshared this morning about the First Amendment. The First Amendment is a Twitter account that they just called the First Amendment, and they talk about what is things that are violations of the First Amendment. And one of them is, let me see if I can actually pull it up. Yeah, I will be able to pull that up for you. I want you to take a look at this tweet. That's, if you're looking at that right now, you can see that's Brody, Ben Brody, who is alleged to be one of the members of the Patriot Front. Oh, check that out. Taxation is theft stretchy leggings. You can get those for your sexy, smoking hot redheaded libertarian wives. Taxation is theft stretchy leggings. You can get those at ap4libertyshop.com. Yes, you can. Oh, this one really pissed me off, this story. I'm not going to go off on this just yet. Mamma mia, New York City rules crackdown on coal and wood-fired pizzerias. Must cut carbon emissions up to 75%. This pisses me off so much. Oh no, what is it? You got a pizza oven that's a wood-fired pizza oven. FBI, open up! FBI, open up. We're going to shut it down. Okay, here we go. So this is the First Amendment Twitter account, which I really like. This is protected free speech. Police arresting them for bigoted speech would violate me, says the First Amendment. Well, that is nice. You can't see what I'm talking about, can you? Okay, now you can. There we go. This is the the tweet. What do we call that? What the hell do we call these? Swastikas in front of a synagogue, says David Greenfeld, is not protected hate speech. Yes, it is, you retard. It's meant to inspire fear of bodily harm as the Nazis systematically killed millions of Jews. Dude, you're one of the people on this planet who makes who how can you make Jews seem less sympathetic? Be David Greenfield. He says police must arrest these bigots and let them appeal their case to higher court. Listen, nobody hates Nazis more than a libertarian like myself. But David, even Nazis have protected free speech in this country. So why can't you understand that and stop giving your people a bad name? I want to talk to you real quick before get back to this topic about my buddy John Burke, who is a veteran of the U.S. military, who has a great company that I want to endorse and recommend to you today, which is shellshockcbd.com. And I've got a little set up this little table. My wife sets it up nicer than I do. But I want to recommend to you this roll-on, roll-out, freeze roll-on here. You use this for pain relief, and God, it saved my back so much in the last few weeks. The great thing about Shell Shock CBD is not only is it an American-owned, military, veteran-owned business, but they've got great products to help kill pain, and you can do it either psychedelically through their Delta 8, like that Delta bar you can see down there. That thing will mess you up on a weekend, I'll tell you that. Or you can do it through just standard natural CBD that won't give you those psychoactive effects. But I kind of like the psychoactive effects, not going to lie. Check them out at shellshockcbd.com. I've got a 10% discount for you right down there. You can see me. I'm kind of, there we go. 10% discount if you use that code AP4Liberty. So use my screen name to get 10% off. And here's the thing. If you're intrigued by these products, like these delicious Fallout gummies, which, God, they taste so good. You got to be careful with those, though. You can eat a lot and get those calories. But yeah, and the chocolate bars and stuff like that. So use sparingly. But get yourself some of these today at shellshockcbd.com. And I'll tell you, for people, I know a lot of people who are worried about snake oil. And I was too before I tried these products, but they work. And here's the thing. Don't believe me. Order some today, or at least just one of the products that you like from shellshockcbd.com today. And if it doesn't work and you don't like it, they've got a money back guarantee. So 100% guarantee. That's why I am happy and proud and confident to endorse shellshockcbd.com, my buddy John Burke's business, because these products, they work. And it's not all just CBD and Delta 8. They've got some great like ashwagandha, and they've got some other supplements and vitamins and things like that that you can get at Shell Shock CBD. So support an American-owned, veteran-owned business at shellshockcbd.com. And again, get that discount. Use AP4Liberty. That way John knows that I'm doing my job as well over here at the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. What does the roll-on smell like? Asks Corey. It's a good question, but it's kind of a mint, right? Yeah, it's like it reminds me a little bit of well, what is the other kind of like pain relief? It's like Bengay a little bit and stuff like that, but not quite as strong. Just a lot more pleasant, like a nice little mint, eucalyptus, I guess is the word that I'm looking for there. So check them out at shellshockcbd.com. Support veteran-owned businesses. Kenneth Slayer over on YouTube says, everyone I hear called darker elements the right turns out to be a Marxist, or rather on the left. Yes, and I would understand that if you were listening to somebody who was maybe a leftist or something like that. But I'll tell you this, I've been in politics for a long time. I've run for president of the United States, and I've been a street activist. I've been to protests. I went to Occupy Wall Street, not as a leftist Marxist, but as a libertarian. And I've been members of the Tea Party, and I'll tell you, I've lived in New York City, and I've lived in Washington D.C. I've been part of anarcho-capitalist book clubs, and I've been around a long time. And there are some darker elements of the right. There are some people with ideologies that are absolutely opposed to libertarianism. And if you're opposed to libertarianism, you're opposed to liberty. The ideas of constitutionalism and a limited government, and of individualism and classical liberalism, not liberalism, right? Those who are on the right, who are opposed to my ideology, are opposed to the Constitution. They're opposed to this idea of Western individualism that is opposed to Eastern ideas. I hear some people on the right who praise Vladimir Putin, and we're talking about praising an autocrat here, right? An oligarch, right? Why would you praise? I can think that I don't that American taxpayer dollars should not be going to pay to Zelensky, and think that Zelensky is corrupt without praising Vladimir Putin, or saying some things that people say like, "Oh, they hope that Vladimir Putin wins." Well, you can. How about a plague on both their houses, right? The same that we feel about Republicans and Democrats here in this country. Why can't you just replace Republican and Democrat with Zelensky and Putin? Right. But some people on the right have chosen a side, and they choose dictatorship, and we're talking about authoritarianism to an extent, right? Right wing authoritarianism or left wing authoritarianism. But if depending on how you see left or right, or how you define left or right, if you're looking at the typical like square, right, there's up and to the right. I guess for you it's the opposite, right? So authoritarian right. I'm down as far as you can get in the bottom right, libertarian right, without how going full-blown anarcho-capitalist, because I consider myself to be a constitutional minarchist, which means I believe in a limited government that leaves adults to be free to do as they please, provided they harm no one else. And of course, all children should be protected. And if a government is to exist, what should it do? Provide cops, courts, and nukes to settle disputes between ourselves here in the United States. But of course, those nukes should not be used. What do you think I am? Adam Kinzinger, or who was the guy who thought that we should nuke the United States? Oh, it was effing Joe Biden and Eric Swalwell who were talking about you'll need F-16s to take on the federal government here in the United States. But honestly, keep those for use against foreign enemies. Domestic enemies, let's go watch and analyze that another day. Dude, awesome crowds today. Big audience. But the Wake Up America show is almost over, which means this is your chance to say, hey, I want to hear from Austin Peterson again. And of the 77 people watching us over on Rumble right now, if you're not subscribed, what are you doing, man? You're going to miss out on great shows every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. I want you to hit that subscribe button. What do you say? You're going to hit that subscribe button, huh? What about the like button? Do it. Sub to the channel. Join us on the Wake Up America show 5 days a week. It's great content. We're all about freedom. I like to think of this show, if you know what a black pill, red pill, blue pill, all this stuff is, this show is what I call a libertarian white pill. We're very much in favor of taking an optimistic, positive view on things. I like to find silver linings in every cloud. It's a great way to start the day when you say, if you want to doom scroll and smoke weed and look at all the stuff that's, the terrible about the world, then you can do so at night. But in the morning, when you're ready to start your day, don't you want something uplifting to get you pepped up, right? Just like a cup of coffee. Well, then you want the Wake Up America show. So join us now. And I got to say a big thank you to Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend for the $10 she just dropped in the tip jar. We appreciate you. Be gone, bitch, she says. Thanks for the fun show. Have a great day. Robbie Thurman gave us $5 earlier today as well. We'll give you a round of applause too. You guys rock. Over 100 people watching us, 72 watching us now over on Rumble, 52 watching us over on YouTube. What are you doing? Click subscribe this morning. Join the Wake Up America show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central. And if you're not following me on any of my social networks, you're missing out. I'm AP for Liberty everywhere else. And I've got an awesome merch shop. If you're saying to yourself, well, I don't want to just give you money, Austin, you got to earn it. Well, you can do so. Check out my AP for Liberty shop, merchandise shop. Great pro-America merchandise over there, pro-Liberty merchandise. We've got a pair of Ron Paul tennis shoes. Well, they're not tennis shoes. They're more like Chuck Taylors, like the Converse All-Stars kind of things. Check that out. There's some Murray Rothbard sneakers, American flag sneakers, all designed by me and my lovely wife, Stephanie, the smoking hot redheaded libertarian, who joins me every Friday on the show. The 4th of July is coming up. So check out that 4th of July collection over there. Get yourself a Teddy Swoelsevelt tank top or a Ben Dranken Benjamin Franklin shirt as well. Still probably some time to get your 4th of July shirts and things like that. Not enough time for the shoes, but for the shirts from the 4th of July shop at apforlibertyshop.com. I wish I didn't have to go, but I do. There's too many of you out there online watching the show this morning. You're making me excited. Yeah, come back tomorrow, will you? Do me that favor. Put a pin in this show. Say, hey, tomorrow morning, Austin Peterson, 7 a.m. Central Time, and we'll see you then. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show, wakeupAmericaShow.com. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.